Hey guys, Ben Bears here for our first milestone update of the semester. Just in case you forgot, I am the programmer slash scripter for our game OLAM MacGuffin. I decided to split our milestone video into two separate videos since it's quite different stuff to talk about. The first video is just going to be all about the the stand programming wise of the game. So I'll talk about all the stuff we had to clean up and also just minor adjustments we've made so far. So the first thing I would like to discuss is our main um, excuse me. The main thing we had to do was clean up everything programming wise. So I had to go back and get rid of all of the static variables and change them to either public or private, or I had to also get rid of variables that I previously added but seem to have forgotten to remove. This stuff might not seem like a big issue when running on certain machines, but if you're running on a lower end machine, or say if we decided to add this to a mobile platform, these kind of things will really mess up the gameplay, especially with static variables. I spent a lot of time over the summer working for a company. First, I was doing a lot of programming work, but then I was moved over to design work, and my coworker was telling me all about how basically static variables and global variables are a big no-no when it comes to game development. I've also looked into a bunch of forums, specifically Unity forums, and they've also said the same thing. Just stay away from, well, in this case, they're called static variables in Unity, JavaScript, just to stay away from them as much as possible. So, in order to do that, I had to go back and to basically search through all of our files and basically remove the word static. But then once I removed the word static, that also created other problems from other files trying to use variables from that specific file. So I'm sure that sounds a slight bit confusing because I'm really bad at explaining things when it comes to programming. So what better way to explain it than to show it? So in order for Lionel to be carried from scene to scene as well as his stats, I had to go back and like I said, when I changed everything from static to either public or private, I basically had to place Lionel in every scene. To show this, as you see him dropping down, just this is not going to be like this for long. This is just for demonstration purposes, just to show that he is in fact on the screen. So in this case, the main menu screen, it's lagging up a bit, sorry. Um, See, when I try to sprint back and forth, his energy depletes, the timer increases, and you can still hear him shooting in the background. Um, like I said, this is not going to happen later on. This is just for demonstrational purposes. So, I mean, in order for this to be disabled in the main menu, it can be a simple if statement. Just saying like if main level or if loaded level equals main menu, then don't do this, don't do that. So, also, the reason why we had to change everything from global, or sorry, static to public or to private, um, we had a really big problem before when for the B's, if the see our level was sort of split. So say if I had a B here that started flapping his wings. I don't know if you can really see because this software isn't really good for recording stuff, but see when the bee starts flapping its wings here and or attacking or any sort of animation, all of the bees in the scene would do the same exact thing. Um, Even though my character wouldn't really actually be anywhere near them. And this is all because of the use of static variables. So once I use static variables, that's basically saying once this bee flaps, all the bees have to flap because all the bees share the same exact code. Just they're just cloned, and that wasn't really too much of a big issue. But it was even worse when it came to the frogs, because the frogs, um, once they were placed close to each other, the animations weren't the same, but their movement was would sort of I guess crash with each other. So in order to better explain that, I don't know why I keep going back and forth. Sorry about that. The frogs, see how they're sort of jumping on their own. That one stops and that one's still going. Before it was here, I'll show it. So as soon as one frog started moving, the other one would start moving, and I have it set so it says once the frog is at a certain height, go back down, and this would crash and clash with the other frog code that would say so even if the frog was standing still, it would basically tell the frog to jump. I'm not sure how or why. Well, I know why because it was used as static, but I'm not sure how it exactly combined with each other like that. But that is why one of the main reasons why we had to go back and I had to go clean up the code. So I don't. I might actually have the original file that shows that a little better, but I don't feel like loading it up and wasting everybody's time. So basically, what would happen is once the frog would start to jump, the other ones behind it, if they were anywhere near that frog, would basically jump and just keep jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. It wouldn't stop because of the use of static and global, basically. Sorry, not global, because global is for other programming languages. Um, Let me see anything on the list, just in case if I've missed anything. I mean, other than that, not too much code-wise. It might not sound a lot, but I had over, I think it was like over 150 lines of code. It was either 100 or 150. I'm really bad with numbers, but it was over that many lines alone of just declaring static. And then once that occurred, I also have to go back in the other files and change the way that they were loaded. So sometimes, so like say for this example, the hardest one actually was creating for the main character. I'll load it up. So see right here, I have for the main character with PNG. That's basically just a graphic image. That is basically so it detects here. I guess I sort of load it to better explain that. Sorry. So going back to the main characters PNG files. Go away. Okay, well basically before I had it so it detected all the bees. So the bees, there used to be two, but once I destroyed them, it removed them. Same as for the frog. Now this is, I had to do this using a for loop, and that was because I needed it so once the frog's tongue does like a tongue attack hit, I need to make it so Lionel knows that only one frog is attacking him and not all frogs are attacking him at the same time. So as you saw before, I had two, and then once I destroyed it, it removed it. And it's really just picking up just the script. So ground enemy tongue, which is frog enemies tongue. So as you see here, I'll show better explain that. So as you see here, it says ground enemy tongue. Once I removed them, completely gone. So now the game is saying that there are no bees and that there are no, well in this part, tongue, frog tongues. And then there's the actual damage ground script, which is for when Lionel actually comes in contact with the frog object, he'll get damaged. And one final thing I should probably mention, I also had to go back and completely rework how the enemies were laid out. So as you see here, I'll just give the example for frogs since they're the only ones living in the scene. the enemy graphics and the tongues were attached to the frog. But before I had it, so it was um, an empty frog object would exist, and then it would be frog enemy, and then enemy graphic and enemy tongue. I had to keep these separate. That's actually a big no-no in Unity. It's usually a safe code practice is to keep all of the object variables and object scripts into one object. But I had to switch it up because at the time we were making this game, Unity 3D wasn't really a go-to engine for making 2D games. And once I had the graphics mess with the actual game object, there were just a lot of errors with it. So instead of sitting there spending days on trying to fix it up, I just separated it so that they're their own object. But as you see, it doesn't cause any issues whatsoever so far, at least. So once I destroy them, they're just completely removed from the scene. These are just inactive enemies that are in the scene. So once I activate them, they'll be there. Same goes for the main character. So as you see, it's sort of split between all the character aspects. Usually, Unity says that all of these should be placed in the main character, but as you see, I had to split them up just because that's how our programming structure worked, really. And it's fine because, I mean, it really doesn't seem to cause any sort of bugs and issues. So that's it for the programming side of things. Sorry it's a little long. Um, Thanks for actually sitting there and listening to me try my best to explain just about everything programming wise that's going on with our game. So, thanks for watching.